We kicked off the internal estimand workstream at Novartis in anticipation of this draft, and I got involved into it. And I had the feeling that probably similar workstreams are active at other companies, and we are discussing the same questions. And it just felt very inefficient to me. I really thought that working together can not only help to unleash the full potential of the framework, if we can ensure common understanding of estimand framework across industry, but it can also just help us to implement the framework more efficiently.
ICH guidelines are meant to be conceptual, high-level principles. And it's a long way then when you work as a trial statistician, as we both did at the time, to kind of find out what does that now mean for me and my trial. So I see this, there's a lot of interpolation work that needs to be done. And I see the working group has contributed to that interpolation work. And that was also one of the reasons why we started this. And you emphasize the aspect of collaboration to not duplicate work in every company that the industry needs to do as a whole anyway. And in my experience, collaborating is also much more fun and much more interesting, and you can learn from each other, from experiences in other companies, from case studies.
Around the same time, I think in summer 2017, I came across one of your presentation, and I think in that presentation you already called for more collaboration, and you also referred to some previous collaborations in oncology on endpoint harmonization like DateCan. A few months later, I think I reached out to you and we started to talk, right? First, I think just to get to know each other better. We didn't know really each other at that time. Then, to share our perspectives on estimates, right? The many open questions that we have found in oncology, right, in particular, where we were working, brainstorm together how we could actually start such a collaboration across the industry. We made a list of maybe 20 people from other companies whom we could contact to gauge interest in such an informal working group. I think actually maybe you made that list, because at that time, being 5 years in the industry, I didn't know many people outside of Novartis. I was definitely bit anxious after sending that email to the strangers and waiting for the responses, because we didn't know also, right, what to expect. It was also possible that there is no interest in this topic. So then the first meeting, I think, took place in February 2018 with approximately 20 members from 15 companies.
And we then tried to do everything very pragmatically. So we discussed and defined a list of topics that we thought would be relevant in this context, and formed what we then at the time called sub-teams. And everybody could just sign up for sub-teams of their interest or where they thought they can contribute. And these, I think initially were 5 sub-teams, and started to work on content, met regularly, and started to build conference presentations with the long-term goal of writing position papers on these very specific topics. And I think one of our guiding principles was that we organized this very flatly. So we saw ourselves as initiators, but not as kind of we lead this and we tell everybody what they need to do. The goal was just to make this useful for industry. One thing we also early on initiated was that we reached out to health authorities with the help of certain esteemed colleagues, senior colleagues from the ICH E9 working group, and just offered to the health authorities that we are working on this, and are you interested in us presenting our findings to you? And we got very positive feedback. I think we, at different points in time, we presented results of the working group to about 8 health authorities globally, which illustrates their interest. And not just did we present what we found, but we explicitly invited them to raise their questions, or they raise their open points where they would think of further research, further development is necessary. And that we then fed back to the working group as well, which then led to a second round of sub-teams, which we then called task forces, tackling new topics that emerged over time when we started to implement the framework. So this is how we organized it. I think the key points: define a list of topics, but do this as a group, because that then reflects the relevance of these topics, and then have these teams work very independently. There is no leadership structure. There is no kind of complicated endorsement structure for whatever. And these colleagues are well capable, and you can just let them work. Initially, this being a bit difficult, that we just expected from everybody that they come forward, that they take leadership, that we didn't dial into these sub-team meetings apart from those where we actively wanted to contribute. But after a while where people got to know to this kind of style of managing this group, things became almost self-perpetuating. But that took a while, so that's worthwhile to be emphasized.
The first years also required a bit more of our support to the teams, and also a bit more organization, and in particular, you know, for example, putting together a communication plan to give also to each task force, each sub-team a platform, right, and to really help them to be visible and to share their learnings, either through conferences or through webinars. We didn't have so much conversation happening across the sub-teams, and I think this is something that has been openly discussed in the working group, and as a result, we have also then created kind of a forum for the task force leads to catch up every couple of months, so that we can share what's happening and to ensure that there is a bit more alignment across the sub-teams or task forces.